fantasy team synced right in the app, you can back your squad. Right now, new customers get $100 in bonus bets when you bet $10. Sign up with promo code USL to get started. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. Offer not available in New York.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious hotel of the Fontainebleau here in beautiful Las Vegas. I guess you could say it is overly ostentatious. This is day number 1 of the Zach Gelb Show right here on Radio Row as we are getting set for the big fight coming up on Saturday at the Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders do play via Netflix, and that, of course, is Canelo versus Crawford. So we have 3 great hours for you today. We will continue coverage tomorrow once again from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific time. And we welcome you in across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and as always, streaming live on YouTube. You can always get at me on the good old cesspool of Twitter or on Instagram, where I'm always straight flexing, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today. We'll have some guests join us along the way. I know Dana White is scheduled to join us at some point today, so we'll talk to the president of the UFC who's in charge of putting on this event tonight, or coming up on Saturday, which is a boxing match. It is between two of the all-time greats in Canelo and Crawford, and we should be joined at some point live on set, John Anik as well, who's going to be on the call along with Max Kellerman. So there's a whole lot to do today. Obviously, today is a day of remembrance, as it is September 11th in the year of 2025. Usually I am in New York on this day, and also not only am I usually in New York for the last 7 years, I've lived 2 blocks from where the World Trade Center did used to stand, and the 2 towers did used to stand, the World Trade Center towers, the Twin Towers. And I remember that day very well. I know some people will be like, Zach, you're 31. How much can you really remember that day when you were 7 or 8 years old? Well, I grew up on Long Island. And even though I'm not from New York City, obviously as a kid, I would always venture into the city with my parents, and then obviously also when you get a little bit older with friends. And I remember being at Rolling Hills Elementary School in the Comac, Dix Hills, New York area, and it was in 2nd grade, and I'll never forget this. We were all sitting right in our desks, and you're minding your own business, right? You're an innocent kid, and you're in 2nd grade, and you don't really know that there are dangers and horrific moments that could end up happening in the world. And I remember the phone rang in my classroom, and my teacher, who her name was Miss Crumpier, a very nice lady and a very jovial soul, her face dropped. The phone rang, she picked up the phone, and her face dropped. And now looking back at it, it was the principal's office, or maybe it was someone close to her at home, that was calling her through the school and got transferred in to the school line into our classroom, because her father did work in the World Trade Center. So he did get out okay, and he did survive, obviously, but that was just a moment where, even though, right, innocent soul, 2nd grade, you don't really know much that's going on in the world, right? How much does a 7 or 8-year-old know at the time? And just to see someone who's a teacher, right, who's giving back to the youth, shaping and molding the youth for the future, someone who, as a 2nd grade teacher, was always positive and always had a smile on her face, to see her face just go ghost white, and there was a panic, and there was a fear, and obviously you knew something did happen. Now, at the time, I'm not able to sit there and say, oh, we knew it was a terrorist attack. Right? When the first plane went into the first tower, no one knew what was going on. Right? You hear people recall it now, where people just thought, okay, it was an accident. And then when that 2nd plane hit, it obviously changed not only New York as we knew it, but the entire world as we did know it as well. And I remember getting out of school early that day, because they released everyone out of school early that day after we had an understanding of what did transpire. And I remember walking into my parents' house on Long Island, and we had a basement, and the garage led right into the basement. And down in my basement, right when you walked in through the garage, there was a massive TV, like an old, archaic now, massive TV down in my family's basement, like one of those big, boxy TVs. And I remember my mom walked me in right from school, and my dad was sitting on the couch, and they were showing the replay of the towers collapsing. And that's just an image that when you see it, it sticks with you and does live with you forever. And now we are 24 years since 9/11. It is important to never forget, and I'll word this in a particular way, the innocent lives that we lost that day. Because there were people who never got to see their mom and dad again. There were people that never got to see their brothers, their sisters, their grandparents, their grandfathers, their aunts and uncles again. And it was because of an awful, horrible, terroristic act. And even 24 years later, it still stays with you. And obviously, right, you have to go on and learn if you lost someone, even though you're always grieving and you're always remembering how to live your life. And to remember that day, and this is why you have to start the day remembering the innocent lives that we lost, but we also have to sit there and say thank you to the first responders, because there were firefighters, police officers, people that weren't even, right, firefighters or police officers, that they just said the moment they saw a tragedy did strike us in New York 24 years ago today, that they immediately ran and just wanted to help. That's what they did. And some of those people were able to go home and hug their loved ones. Some of those people ran, helped 10, 15, 20, 30 people, save those lives. And unfortunately, they fought to try to save people with great courage until the end, where they lost their life. And that's also people that we need to remember on a day like this. And to see the response and how sports played a role in the healing process, that's something that you're always going to remember. You know, I remember through the years we've had Mike Piazza on the show. And the biggest home run of Mike Piazza's career, without a doubt, was when baseball returned to New York. And you had Mike Piazza hit that home run. This one's got a chance, right? You remember the Howie Rose call when Mike Piazza hit that home run up against the Braves. And in that moment, right, Mike Piazza's home run, it didn't bring back a mother who was lost on 9/11. It didn't bring back a father or a brother or sister or a son or a daughter who was lost on 9/11, but it allowed people for a moment not to forget about what happened, but feel normal again. It was a moment where obviously when you walked in that stadium that night, everyone, right, heightened awareness. Could something else happen? What else is around the corner in a terrible, awful way? And in that moment, you had an area that was clearly impacted by this. Unfortunately, it was at the epicenter of this horrific, disgusting attack. And you had, let's say 40,000 people at Citi Field that night, just able to smile and for a few moments get away from what the reality was and the tough times that were at home. And I remember I talked to Chipper Jones, who was a part of that. And Chipper Jones, who was obviously on the opposition, he said, I never wanted to see the Mets win. He goes, that was the one night that I didn't have a problem with the Mets winning, because the people of New York, and obviously what happened in our nation's capital and what happened in Pennsylvania, were impacted by it significantly. And I didn't even know this at the time. And everyone has these stories of where they could have been on 9/11. But years later, right, when I got older and you kind of reflect and have even more serious conversations about what did transpire and what did go down, right, when you get into an older stage of life where sometimes parents will try to protect you and coddle you and guard you, as most good parents do when you're younger. But when I got into a later part of life, you know, my dad revealed to me, because if you recall, the Giants were playing the Broncos, you know, Monday night to open up that season. So my dad, who obviously was a longtime radio producer and at the time was a sales executive for WFAN in New York, WFAN had an event scheduled that day in the Windows of the World, which is all the way at the top. Now, for some reason, they had a contract, and I think it was like 4 or 5 months before 9/11, the event just fell through. And right, they ripped up the contract, and the event just didn't happen. But my dad would have been in the building that day, and my life would have been extremely different, because he would not have been coming home that day from where he was if that event did go on and they didn't have a scheduling snafu or whatever happened. And I'm lucky, right? The person that is so close to me, I am able to now have him obviously come home every day, right? And we have this great relationship between my dad and I. But there are many people on 9/11, and there are people like me who are 7 and 8 years old that didn't get their dad or mom that did come home that day. And every day, and I hope this doesn't it's not meant to sound like cheesy or whatever, but every day I am reminded of what occurred living in the city for the last 7 years and living literally 2 blocks from when where the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, did used to stand. Every day I walk back from work, or I'll go to the grocery store, and you see the Freedom Tower, and you see the countless people that come in with the way that the memorials are now, and they pay their respects. So I know a lot of times people tune into this show, and they just want to hear sports, right? Zach, I go to you to get a distraction, get away, distract myself from what's going on in the world. Well, when you're sitting here 24 years ago today, and you're doing a sports talk radio program on September 11th, and you have someone that's a New Yorker like me, I can't start a show without saying never forget and remember the innocent lives and the heroes that we lost that day. And sometimes, right, in sports, we all have heroes, right? Tom Brady could be your hero, or Wayne Gretzky could be your hero, or Hank Aaron, right, could be your hero. There's all different types of heroes in the history of sport. And not that I want to take away what those people have accomplished. And obviously, they have produced many moments that they put a smile on your face, right? They make you feel good. They bring you back to your youth and a younger time. But the real heroes are the people that ran into those towers and said, I need to help. And I need to go save lives, even at, unfortunately, ultimate sacrifice of their life. And with that being said, I've said this many times before. There are days you do this show and you stick to the sports and you can't touch about every issue that's going on in this world. But if you're a human being, you saw what happened yesterday in Utah. And I don't care what your politics are. We don't usually get political on this show. But what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday is a flat-out disgrace. And whether you agree with him or not, you need to acknowledge that's a father, that's a husband, and his kids are never going to see dad again, and his wife is never going to see her beloved husband ever again. And seeing those videos as we were on the air yesterday, right, we go to commercial break, and I had no clue what was going on. And Mike goes, you need to check social media, but be careful before you do. And seeing that assassination happen, you just want to vomit yesterday, and it's disgusting. And I thought Josh Hines-Allen did a great job where the Jaguars player said, you don't have to agree with Charlie Kirk or his views, but taking someone's life over differences is never justified. The whole situation is tragic. Prayers and condolences to his family and loved ones. And here's what I'll say. And I've seen some of Charlie's content before, obviously. He was a well-known person, and on Reels, it would pop up, and I would see some of these debates. And something that always stood out to me, even if you didn't agree with the content and the topics that were being discussed, but he went to all these college campuses. He went around the world to just encourage conversation, encourage debate. And he would test you. There's no doubt. If you walked up and you had a differentiating viewpoint, he would have a conversation. And he would state his case and you would state your case. And that's something that it's really lost on us now in society. We got to a point now where, as you sit here on 9/11 and you remember 24 years ago how everyone unified and everyone put their differences aside to be as one. Now we're in such a world where it's Democrat up against Republicans, and this is my view, and that's your view. And if you have a differentiating viewpoint, you try to stop discussion. There's not that many healthy conversations left in the world anymore. And I'm not sitting here saying that you had to agree with everything that Charlie Kirk said, but he at least respected the other side. He at least encouraged conversation and wanted a world of healthy debate. And that's something that we've really lost in this world, where we've got to a point where discussions aren't happening anymore. And that's what I take from Charlie Kirk. That's what I take from him. He, whether you liked him or not, whether you loved him or hated him, he encouraged debate and he advocated for conversations. And I'll be abundantly clear, And what I'm about to say, if you don't like what I say and you never listen to me again, it's your loss, and so be it. I hope that's not the case. But anyone sitting there on social media yesterday in the aftermath of an assassination attempt and a successful assassination, not an attempt, excuse me, and you see that video and anyone celebrating his death, that's just shameful. It's shameful, it's disgraceful, and it's disgusting. Because at the end of the day, whether you agreed with his views or his politics, that is a man that was supposed to go home yesterday and see his kids and see his wife. And because someone did something that despicable and assassinated him, he's not allowed to do that. 16 after the hour, it is the Zach Gelb Show. We'll take a timeout. We'll come on back, and we will talk sports after these short messages. The NFL season is rolling. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code GELB. That's code GELB for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, you could be eligible to get over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket subscription from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Budo Casino and Resort, Kansas, must be 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Must be present in state where it is lawful to wager. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets or non-cash credits that expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer valid until September 29th, 2025.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, welcome back inside the Fountain Blue. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, coast to coast, and we are here today on behalf of Netflix and also tomorrow for the big fight coming up on Saturday between Canelo versus Crawford. John Anik is going to join us coming up later in the show. We should have Jim Gray at some point in this hour, the legendary commentator, and we're hoping to connect with Dana White before we do say goodbye to you today at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern. So you do have week 2 of the NFL season kicking off tonight, and that's between the Washington Commanders and the Green Bay Packers. And let me tell you, I can't wait for that game because the game doesn't start out here until 5:15 p.m. Pacific. We're back on the East Coast, where I'm from in New York. It's at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. And I think on Sunday, I'm going to try. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm going to try. I got to get up early, and I got to do the 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific time Sunday morning football show. But Sunday during the day, I'm going to try to venture over to Circa, which has that stadium swim where you're sitting in a pool all day and you're watching the NFL. So I'm looking forward to that. But Samter, I was just saying it, by the way, 5:15 p.m. Pacific tonight. We do get week 2 of the NFL season kicking off. You know, that is a heck of a time, 5:15 p.m. Pacific, that we get to enjoy kickoff.
And you think about it, I mean, between sitting around and having a couple drinks, well, we have some dinner plans ready to go.
I don't think I'm going to have any drinks tonight. I think I'm just going to eat food.
It's 105 degrees outside. I'm going to the pool. I'm sitting there, getting some sun, having a drink, watching some football, and then we got dinner. Can't go wrong.
All righty. This is a safe space.
Uh-oh.
And we will get to the 49ers in just a second.
Uh-oh.
Stu and Nico, you guys could hear me, correct?
Oh, yes.
If you had to take a guess, is it a show or a movie, by the way, Samter, that you
Movie.
watched on? Okay. What movie do you think Samter watched on the plane? As Samter was sitting a row behind me, but on the other side of the plane. What movie, when I went up to go to the bathroom on the plane, do you think I saw Samter watching yesterday? If you just had to take a guess, throw a guess out there.
Sure. How about the Titanic?
It was not the Titanic. That'd be a little bit morbid, by the way, when we were traveling. If Samter was watching the Titanic, all right? Be a little bit morbid.
Well, for the record, our pilot did draw our attention to the World Trade Center right before we took off because we were delayed. And that may not have been the best mindset idea there, but...
All right, Nico, what do you think? Give me a guess here. What movie?
How about The Wolf of Wall Street?
It was not The Wolf of Wall Street.
However, not a terrible guess because one of the biggest stars from that movie was the star from the movie that I was watching.
Oh, no, that's not what I was going to say. I think you were going to finish my sentence.
No.
My mom dated Jordan Belfort back in the day.
Yes.
That's what I thought you were going to go with there.
Yes.
I was going to say, watch yourself, buddy. You were in striking distance for me to just punch you right in the mouth, and we're in the fighting mood since we're here for Canelo versus Crawford.
Yeah. No.
All righty. Can you guys make sure your microphones are on? Because I think there's going to be laughter that ensues. And one of the PR people here, because, the UFC is involved with this fight through Dana White and the boxing promotion, they got wind that Samter watched this, and the person came up to me and was hysterically laughing, saying, I wasn't expecting Samter to watch this movie. So, Mike, do you want to reveal what movie you were watching? And Mike's daughter was not present with him. His wife was not present with him. It was just Samter, little fella in a window seat with the middle seat open and the aisle seat open, as no one was sitting next to Samter in row 8 of the plane. Samter, tell him what movie you were watching.
Well, I'm just going to qualify it. I started with the movie Sinners. And after you watch that movie, you just feel...
Josh Allen's a lucky guy.
Oh, first of all, Haley Steinfeld was awesome. She was so cool in that movie.
Keep it in your pants. Control yourself.
No. Not in that. Her character and her acting was incredible.
Samter's a fan of her personality, if you know what I'm saying.
Honestly, in that movie, she was just a great actress in that movie, and her character was just awesome. Anyway, after that movie's over... Don't bury
the lead here.
After that movie's over, it's like a little bit dark, right? Not a little. It's very dark. It's a very heavy movie. So I'm looking through the movies they had that I hadn't seen yet, and there weren't a lot of like fun, happy movies until I kind of came across the early parts of the alphabet, and I saw the B. And, Oppenheimer was a big movie early on, and they kind of got tailed together with Barbie. And I saw Oppenheimer twice, hadn't seen Barbie. I needed something light. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Margot Robbie is awesome. I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling. Let's do it. I need a palate cleanser after watching Sinners. So I watched Barbie, and it was stupid, but it was funny. So it was what I needed at that time.
We get off the plane, and Samter goes to me, I watched the movie on the plane. And I tried to play it off that I didn't catch Samter watching this as I was going to the bathroom. And I go, what movie was it? I wanted to see what he was going to say. And he starts off with Sinners, which Shannon Crowder was talking about with us the other day. When he asked me, have you seen the movie Sinners? I thought he said Sinners. And I was like, what the heck is he talking about? No, I haven't seen it, Shannon. He goes, you got to watch that, Gelby.
It's intense.
And
it
so
is intense.
He starts off with that diatribe that he just gave you. I was being a regular person. I was watching Sinners. Haley, what's her last name?
Seinfeld. Well, Allen, I guess.
Yeah. And then I was watching Barbie. And he goes, pretty good movie.
I mean, listen. On the surface, you hear Barbie, you're like, this is stupid, this is for girls, this is what it is. A deep movie with heart. It has a legitimate message, societal message. Margot Robbie is incredible. It's an entertaining movie. It's what you need it to be. It's stupid, it's silly, it's Barbie, but there's a message to it, and you walk away, you're like, I feel like I learned something from that.
You're missing the point here.
What?
I'm not judging necessarily why you were watching it. It was just the unexpectedness when I'm going to the bathroom and I did like a quick look and I go, here is Samter, who is full of energy, who is sometimes full of angriness, right?
Sometimes.
And his wife and child, adorable child, is not with us.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I was doing what Stu was doing, and I was hallucinating. I really did. I did a double take, a triple take, and then I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And I came back, and I was moving past row 27 and 13 and 10, and I go, oh, my God, he's really watching what I think he's watching. So that was why I chuckled at it, because you could have given me, this is what I told the person at the UFC, you could have given me 100 guesses to what you were watching. You could have put 100 names in a hat, and if I pulled out Barbie first, I would say no chance, and I would keep pulling out names, and then I would eventually go through the 99 and would be like, oh my God, it actually was Barbie. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So we got news earlier this morning that 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy is going to miss 2 to 5 weeks with a form of turf toe. So Brock Purdy out for 2 to 5 weeks. And panic is going to set in if you're a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, because Mac Jones is now going to be your quarterback. I think because of how short this is expected to be, of 2 weeks to 5 weeks, that I don't anticipate that they're going to go on out there and make a deal for Kirk Cousins. If this was season ending, I think they would go make a move for Kirk Cousins, especially with the relationship with Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins, and how it seems like for years that Kyle Shanahan was trying to get Kirk Cousins to the Bay Area. But with this being said, 2 to 5 weeks from afar, with Kittle also being out, now Purdy, and the bevy of other injuries and the abundance of other injuries that the 49ers have, people are going to sit there and be like, the sky's falling for the 49ers. I'm going to tell you why it's not, though. First off, it's 2 to 5 weeks. That could mean 2. It could mean 3. It could mean 4. It could mean 5. You're already 1-0, though, and that one division win or that one game that you won came up against a divisional team in the Seattle Seahawks. Don't get me wrong, the Cardinals lost. Don't get me wrong, the Rams did win their Week 1 contest, and the Rams, right, we talked about them all offseason. Stafford and his back. That defense continues to be a big story with Versk and Fisk and Turner and Young. But you look at the San Francisco 49ers, here are their next games, their next 2 to 5 games, if he misses 2 to 5 weeks. New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville. Those are 3 weeks. If they go 1-2, they're still sitting there at 2-2. So the season wouldn't be over. And I don't think it's crazy to say that they could go 2-1 in those next 3 games, and maybe they're sitting there at 3-1, and then hopefully you could get a return of Brock Purdy. But if it's more than those 3 weeks, and if you go through 5 weeks, you got to take advantage of this window up against New Orleans, the Cardinals, and the Jaguars. All 3 teams are beatable. New Orleans is not a good football team this year. The Arizona Cardinals, I believe in Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't believe in Kyler Murray. And then you play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I get the Jaguars look good in Week 1, but they weren't playing this unbelievable opponent. They were playing the Carolina Panthers. But after that, it's at the Rams, and then it's at the Buccaneers. That's where it gets tough. So if the Niners, even if it is 5, if the Niners can just survive here and take 2 out of 3, or even if they lose 2 out of 3, they then are looking at either 2-2 or 3-1, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. So you hear 2 to 5 weeks, it seems like a big differentiating, time frame. And you hope it's on the earlier side. And who knows with this form of a turf toe, but if I'm a Niners fan, I'm thinking for sure, all right, he's out New Orleans, he's out Arizona, and he's probably out up against the Jaguars. But those 3 games you could survive. If it's more than that, and you don't survive in those first 3 weeks, then it gets tricky because the Rams are a heck of a football team, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield are a heck of a football team as well. Alrighty, we're live inside of the Fountain Blue here, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network, across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and streaming live in YouTube. I'm wearing, by the way, a very nice shirt today. I got cards on my shirt. I got poker chips on my shirt. I feel like I'm very much so in the Vegas mood, and we thank our friends at Netflix who do have us out here all throughout the weekend, where I'll be going to the fight on Saturday. I'll be doing my show on Sunday here in Las Vegas as well, and we got 2 kick-ass shows for you today. Obviously, we're 33 minutes into this show. We are here until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, and then tomorrow we are once again on the air live from 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. So let's take a time out right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network as we're broadcasting to you live from Las Vegas. We'll send it back to our New York City studio headquarters. Here he is, the Act-Man, Rich Ackerman with the latest Sports Flash.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance, who protects small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Week 2 opens tonight with a pair of teams that won their opener after playoff seasons a year ago. The Packers host the Commanders, and both quarterbacks good to go. Jordan Love showed no ill effects of his injured thumb on Sunday. Jaden Daniels had been nursing a sore wrist. He's also ready. Daniels nearly unstoppable as a rookie. Packers head coach Mike LaFleur said it's an even bigger challenge to prepare on a short week and not as much in terms of scouting this time of the year.
In regards to how we were going to game plan, and we were able to jump ahead a little bit throughout training camp, and then, obviously you take into account week 1, but it's still limited film.
The addition of Micah Parsons might alleviate some concerns. He's been battling a sore back, but played through the injury last weekend. Bills defensive tackle Ed Oliver now on the injury report, missing practice today because of an ankle injury and is in a walking boot. Baseball today, the Blue Jays have a 2-0 lead over the Astros in the bottom half of the third. The White Sox on top of the Rays, 2-0 bottom 5. And it's the Orioles with a 3-2 lead over the Pirates in the bottom of the 8th. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, live in Vegas, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. This portion of the show is sponsored by the all-new Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. Learn how it's so much more than just another SUV at HyundaiUSA.com. So there was a lot of crazy storylines from week one of the NFL season, and we kick off week two tonight with the Commanders and the Packers. I think this is a game where it's a good measuring stick with now two title contenders to see, alrighty, who is ready to step into the NFL elite and maybe who's just going to tap out or bow out in the wild card round or the divisional round this year. The Commanders last year, I wouldn't call them elite, but they were one of the four teams remaining as they found a way to get to the NFC Championship game where they just got dismantled by the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Green Bay Packers, they lost to the Eagles to kick off the postseason on that wild card weekend. But it was kind of a year where we went into it saying, okay, can Jordan Love take that next step? He obviously was not able to. And then it has led into a part where this year they go get Micah Parsons, they dominate, and they blow out the Detroit Lions in week one at Lambeau Field, and now it's all the hype and all the praise, right? We did our power rankings the other day. I put the Packers as 3, I put the Bills 2, and then I put the Eagles 1, and I hear other national commentary and other people, they say, oh no, the Packers should be 2, or the Packers should be 1, with after the way that they just totally undressed the Detroit Lions and dominated them for 60 minutes at Lambeau Field. So it's a fun one tonight between two young quarterbacks in Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love, two teams that the Commanders last year, it felt like they arrived. I'm never saying that the Packers disappeared because they were in the postseason, but the Packers are looking to get back into what defines them as an organization, and that's winning championships. Like, Jordan Love could go on out there, and he could go have a 10-year career, and he could go make the Hall of Fame. If he doesn't have a Super Bowl, that's not good enough. Right? If Love plays 15 years and gets a gold jacket but doesn't win a Super Bowl, that standard's okay in Detroit. That standard's okay. Right? Cleveland would take a Hall of Fame quarterback instantly. That's okay if you're with the Chargers. But when you're with the Green Bay Packers and you got Bart Starr and you got Brett Favre and you got Aaron Rodgers, you're expected to not only get a gold jacket but hold up a shiny Lombardi trophy. So this is going to be a fun one tonight between the Commanders and the Packers, and I do think we get a very close, down to the wire. It feels like this is a 27-23 type of game. If you get to 27 tonight, if you're able to get past 24, I think you should feel pretty damn good with your chances. But I feel as if this is a 27-23, 27-24 type of game. But as we advance further and we get into the Week 2 storylines, a lot of it is we saw a lot of surprising quarterback play in Week 1. And who in Week 2 is going to be able to take that baton, and you're already out to the head start, and you're going to keep on running with it. And then it's going to be 2 weeks where you played really well, and then people are going to start looking at you, and people are going to start saying, oh, maybe quarterback X is better than what we thought, or maybe quarterback Z has found their home in a new spot or with a different teammate. So let's do this. Based off of the Week 1 surprising quarterback performances, we'll skip around the room here. You get Stu's thoughts, you get Santa's thoughts, you get my thoughts. We'll give you 2 quarterbacks each. We'll one around the room, and then we'll do another one around the room. Who is a quarterback that surprised in Week 1 that you're just curious to see how we're going to be talking about them in Week 2? And I'm going to start it off with Justin Fields, who right now Samter is starting to claim again as his quarterback because Samter's now being this Fugazi Jet fan once again. But Justin Fields, he lost, right? It kind of fits the Jet mold where even when they win, they lose, and it's kind of moral victories, and look how good Justin Fields looked. But I've seen Justin Fields before play really well on a football field. I've seen Justin Fields before get out on a football field and light it up. But then you don't see a good version of Justin Fields for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then he lights it back up again. Justin Fields' biggest problem has been inconsistency. He's a run-first quarterback. I do think his arm is better than what people think, but the arm has not been consistent enough in the NFL. So I look at Justin Fields, great start, fun start, good start, encouraging start, up against the Pittsburgh Steelers at MetLife Stadium, and if Gibson didn't put the ball on the turf, maybe the Jets are 1-0. to start out this season. And maybe the Steelers are 0-1, and we have to deal with how insufferable Samter's going to be with the Jets, just like how he was insufferable a week ago after Arizona State beat some South Harmon Institute of Technology, some garbage school, and then the next week they played Mississippi State, and it was a 55-yard touchdown in that range of emotions. So I don't want Samter to freak out and start throwing things on set, so I'm going to stop right there. But I'm curious what Justin Fields up against a good team, not a great team, a good team in the Steelers, what he did in week 1, what's the carryover effect, and what could he do in week 2 as the Jets get set to face the Buffalo Bills? Samter, who's your first quarterback?
I'm going to go with my my other team, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. My other.
Tough to keep track.
I know.
I need to be like Andy Reid on the sideline with that big menu as he's calling plays. I need to have a big menu on the sidelines, getting set to call plays, just to keep in track on the teams that you're rooting for.
Yeah, I'm going Kyler Murray. He had a decent game against the Saints. They're going up against the Panthers this week, which isn't a huge test. But with Marvin Harrison Jr. there and that running game, I'm really interested to see what he can do.
Yeah, well, we'll get back to this segment in just a second as we are live here in Las Vegas at the Fountain Blue. Or actually, we thought we were going to get Jim Gray right there, and then I don't think we are. So we should get Jim Gray momentarily. But Samter was kind of giving me the side eye there, and he was like, oh Jim Gray's coming on over, so we'll start to get to Jim Gray. But that's not the case. So we'll get back to the segment here. You end up, yeah, that's fine. So we'll just do it at the top of the hour, right? Is that what you're saying? So look at that. You were quarterbacking. Yeah, I don't know how that looked on camera, but like you got up, it looked like you're ready to extend the handshake.
He walked right past me.
Right past you.
Yep.
Who was the?
I'm used to that.
There was it was Warren Sapp.
It was that
at the Super Bowl,
or the infamous Josh Allen, Peter King. You ever seen that one?
No.
Peter King's doing an interview with Josh Allen, and at the end, Josh Allen goes to shake his hand. Peter King looks right at the camera and just ignores Josh Allen. It was hilarious.
I remember it was Joe Buck when he was interviewing Josh Harris, the new owner of the Commanders.
Oh, that's bad
and
too.
I think and he went to go put out his hand, and Joe basically just gave himself a high five because Josh Harris just did not shake his hand. So it was one of those moments. Who was the knucklehead on the Browns today? Do you remember?
Grant Delpit.
Yeah, who's talking smack on Derrick Henry. Jim Gray was basically Derrick Henry. You were Grant Delpit. What's going to happen this weekend? He went right through you. Boom. And then Samter came back, and it was a little walk of shame. So you ended up going with Kyler Murray. You want to see how he's going to perform this week?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's just a lot of question marks around him, and with that, especially with Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm just really curious to see when he's healthy. If you remember, like the last time he was really, really healthy, he was an MVP candidate, and then he got hurt at the end of the year, and then so Kyler Murray has that ability. It's just a matter of staying healthy and staying consistent.
Yeah, and even though they lost, you got to see Marvin Harrison Jr. get into the end zone, and I think he's going to have a bounce-back season after what was a disappointing rookie year. Stu, who's your first quarterback here?
All right, so my first one is Daniel Jones. I don't think any of us saw what was coming against the Dolphins last week in week 1. He had the one passing touchdown, 22 of 29, had the 2 rushing touchdowns as well. He goes up against a Broncos defense that is very good, one of the best defenses in the league. Let's see if he can replicate what he did in week 1. I'm very curious to see if he can do that.
Yeah, and you put him up against the Denver Broncos, like you said. It's a game where the Broncos should win, but it's not impossible for the Colts to win because the Colts do have some good offensive firepower now with Taylor, with Pierce, with Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren, who we haven't talked enough about him. I couldn't believe that Tyler Warren fell all the way to the 14th pick of the draft, and Colston Loveland, I'm a Michigan guy saying this, Colston Loveland went before Tyler Warren. You watched Tyler Warren in college. I thought he was one of the top 5 players entering this draft class. So it's a game that you're not expected to win, but I don't think it should surprise anyone if maybe the Broncos, who didn't look great against Tennessee, in week 2, they have a little bit of a fallback spot, and then Daniel Jones continues to become this story. All righty, I'll get to my next quarterback. And how about the gauntlet to start the season? Just in terms of primetime spots for one J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy, isolated spot on Monday, people not believing in him, going up against Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, right? The up-and-comers, Chicago's finally going to have a 4,000-yard passing quarterback, all the fireworks that were supposed to be happening in Chicago. And J.J. McCarthy for 3 quarters was terrible. He was horrendous. He looked like a deer in headlights. And then in the 4th quarter, not only did he come back, not only did he overcome adversity, not only was he dominant, but he really won over that locker room. And he found a way to win NFC Offensive Player of the Week. If you would have told me that after the pick 6, I would have said, But what fake news, what onion type of award is this? And now J.J. McCarthy, how can you build off of it? And you're in another isolated spot on NBC, Sunday Night Football. You're playing Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr., rematch of that national championship game. J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr., Michigan and Washington. They got Bijan Robinson. You got Drake London.
Nice job by
Bijan. You got it. Honey Dijon. That's how I'm starting to remember it. That was maybe the name of one of my, my fantasy football team 2 years ago, Honey Bijan. I didn't tell that to Bijan Robinson. I probably should have told him that, but now I know that's how he pronounces his name. So now you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are coming off a tough Week 1 loss. I don't think anyone's crushing the Vikings if they lose this game. But show me you could replicate what you did in the fourth quarter, maybe not throughout the entirety of the game, but make it look better from the start. So that's what I'm curious about with J.J. McCarthy. And if he wins, I know it's only 2 games, he goes from the butt of everybody's joke to then after 2 weeks just looking like he's got that it factor. He's got that dog in him, as the kids would say. All right, what do you got?
For me, my second quarterback is going to be Geno Smith. I'm surprised Stu didn't go with his own guy because Geno, all he did in Seattle was make the playoffs, make Pro Bowls.
People wrote him off, and he didn't write back.
And he did not write back.
Legendary line.
And at this point, after what he did last week with 380 yards, 390 yards, another touchdown, in a big win, they're going up against the Chargers. And I'm not saying that my Chiefs are not going to win that division. But what I am saying is that the competition there in the West is significant. And if he can come out and beat the Chargers, and they start 2-0, you have to start talking about the Raiders being a legitimate threat in the West.
You know that the Chiefs are going to be there at the end of the year.
Yes.
They will be there at the end of the year.
Yes.
It's how far can you, if they struggle now and go to 0-2 against the Eagles, and they have another tough game, I think it's week 4 against the Ravens, the Giants sandwich in between, really not that, that scary, and it doesn't make you apprehensive. If they're going to start the year off 0-2 or maybe 1-3, how far can the teams like the Broncos and the Chargers and the Raiders just run past Kansas City to set themselves up so at the end of the year it's not a spot where it's like, oh my goodness gracious, what the heck have we done? And you just got to try to survive and swim at the end of the day. All righty, Stu. Figure on out what your last one is here.
All right, my last one is Aaron Rodgers. And, again, he had the 4 touchdowns against the Jets, 244 yards week 1. He looked great. He looked like Aaron Rodgers of old. But, let's see if he can do that again. Let's see if the body can, the old body can get healthy and do that against the Seahawks because, I don't think we're going to see 4 touchdowns again this week, but I'm curious to see what we get somewhere in between that.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Aaron Rodgers. My question becomes, is he going to be able to survive the season? He looked awesome. You're not going to see that version of Aaron Rodgers each and every week. There's going to be a lot of jet version of Aaron Rodgers or how it was in the final season with the Green Bay Packers. But for Aaron Rodgers, that line is a question mark. They got to run the football more with Najee Harris no longer there. It's a big year for Jalen Warren. Sure, DK Metcalf is there. I know they're high on Austin. And you got Pat Freiermuth, who's still a solid tight end in this league, even though there's some up and down play with him. But it's going to be about keeping Aaron Rodgers healthy. And that's my biggest question with Aaron Rodgers at the age of 41. Sure, what we saw on Sunday was epic. What we saw on Sunday was really damn cool. I could deal without the stuff at the end of the game where it's basically like, oh, we're blaming the Jets and all that. But now it's with Aaron Rodgers. Are you going to be able to stay upright throughout the season? And we'll have to wait and see on that. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show. We're coming on back live in Las Vegas after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, welcome back inside the Fountain Blue. It is hour number 2 of our radio program, Coast to Coast. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app. Where aren't we? Oh, yeah, we're also streaming live on YouTube, and we got a legend in the house right now, and he's doing a great job now, along with Tom Brady, for the Hall of Excellence. And that, of course, is the legendary sportscaster in Jim Gray. Jim, Zach Gelb, great to see you in person. How you been?
Hey, I'm great, thank you. Thank you for mentioning the Hall of Excellence. It's right here in the Fontainebleau Hotel, right here in Las Vegas, and it's all the great sports memorabilia in our country and the world's history. Got Tom's 7 Super Bowl rings are in there, a championship trophy from everything, from Jack Nicklaus's Masters trophy to the Claret Jug of Tom Weiskopf to the Yankees 1998 trophy to, you name it, it's in there. We got Jackie Robinson's bat that broke the color barrier in 1947. We've got Babe Ruth's bat for his called shot. We've got a whole bunch of stuff from Kobe Bryant and LeBron James when he broke the record and so on and so forth. There's 350 truly historic artifacts in the Hall of Excellence, hallofexcellence.org.
You know, it's very cool. And also, you know, when we're in this business, sometimes you just get immune and, right, you sometimes take it for granted. And I'll tell you this, I remember growing up as a kid, my dad, right, who produced sports talk radio and was in sales, he had a fight poster in Philadelphia. And he grabbed the fight poster from Philadelphia, it was Ali and Frazier, and he got it signed by Joe. And then one day he met Muhammad Ali and got that signed. And that's just something to me, because it's my dad's, right? He passes it down. Now it's in my apartment in the city. That's always special. So for you, you just went through it, right? It's a who's of memorabilia. Is there one in particular where you're like, wow, this is still, even Jim Gray thinks this is still pretty damn cool?
Well, Ali was my first interview back in 1977, so he gave me some stuff over the years. We have his last robe in the Hall of Excellence here in the Fontainebleau Hotel from when he fought Trevor Berbick. And we have the gloves from when he fought George Savallo when he couldn't get a license to fight in this country. He had to go to Canada, and he called Savallo his toughest fight ever. So that's a favorite, but probably the most favorite item that I have in the Hall of Excellence comes from Ali. He drew a painting for me when we were on an airplane for his last interview, and it's of him knocking down Joe Frazier. So we have a painting from Muhammad that he actually did, and he was not an artist. He was an artist in the ring, and he was an artist with his words, and he was an artist for society. And he also gave me a bat. He's from Louisville, and they made bats of him, Muhammad Ali bats, but he signed it Cassius Clay.
Wow.
So that's down in the museum, and so there's something for everybody. I mean, Simone Biles, we have a display out in front, and it's of Simone Biles. Tom Brady's shoes when he came back from 28-3. Greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
My favorite sports moment of all time as a Patriot fan.
And then we have Simone Biles, and you see just how dynamic and how small she is, her first leotard that she wore when she won a gold medal in Rio in 2016. And you see that, and really, for most men that walk by, you'd have a tough time, getting into it, one of your thighs, one of the two thighs. So you see just how, and so it's great to see that, and see, just legends, all the great female legends as well, everybody from Katie Ledecky and her records to Serena Williams to Billie Jean King. There's Babe Dietrichson. We have her club. She's probably the greatest female athlete ever. And so we have something, there's something for everybody.
I always wonder.
We also have Oprah Winfrey's Medal of Freedom. And if you go through the tour, you were guided through the tour by Morgan Freeman.
Oh, wow.
And then all the great sports. For all 350 items, all the great sports voices do this. Marv Albert does it for basketball. Bob Costas for baseball.
Of this last night.
Jim Nance for Oh, you did?
Well, I checked into the hotel room,
and there was Morgan.
It was Morgan on the hotel. It was a little late. We got in late last night, and I'm watching. It was just looping on my TV, and every 3 minutes, it would just be Morgan Freeman's voice. So that's what I was watching.
Good voice
last
to hear.
night.
There you go. Well, come on in. Second floor, Fontainebleau. They've been great partners. Jeffrey Sofer and everybody at the Fontainebleau did a great job. Tom Brady. Been a great partner and put all of his jerseys and important rings and so forth in there. He says it's a place where we inspire, educate, and entertain, and he said it's better than the Smithsonian.
Wow. Jim Gray here with us. When you do this job, right, and you're interviewing so many people as you have, sometimes naturally you become friendly with people.
Sure.
And you've always had that ability to create relationships with the people that you're interviewing. Not everyone's, it's well documented, right? Not everyone loves the person they're getting interviewed. Not everyone's going to love, every question. But your ability to get a lot out of people and then genuinely respect you and then becomes friends with you has always just been interesting, in your career.
Well, that's what's been important to me. It wasn't the headline. It never is. It was the relationship and the ability to ascertain the information for the public and for the people that I work for and with. So that was how I approached it. And, I was lucky early in life. My first interview was with Ali, led to a lifetime relationship. That opened the doors. My second job was in Philadelphia with the Sixers and Julius Erving, and he opened every door, every window. And when you show up with Julius Erving and you're interviewing him all the time, boy, it sure makes it a lot easier with Moses Malone and Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and everybody who sees that you're good with him. So they think if he's good with them, if Julius is good with him, then I'm going to be. And same with Ali. So I figured out early that, and things have changed quite a bit. We didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have pages. We didn't have all that stuff. So, we were doing things on film and then videotape. And now it's graduated, obviously, to digital. But back then, the stories that were germane to the game and happened on the field is what we talked about. We weren't talking about something that didn't matter to the outcome of the game, which was people's personal lives. What they did, unless it spilled over and became a story that affected the game, that didn't occur. So it was easier to have a relationship. We had proximity. We were in the locker room. We were on the buses. We saw them on the field. We had access to the court. Now, all of that has changed quite a bit, so it's much more difficult to have a relationship because you don't have the ability to get to know each other. You're doing it via Zoom. You're doing it, from a podium, and all of us become, who cover the sport, don't get to know these guys in a way. So there is no trust because that doesn't occur. How can I trust somebody I don't know?
And what I've learned is, and I've been able to network and create these relationships as well, is if you treat the athlete like a human and don't just only use them when you need them, that's how you really develop the relationship.
It works for me. And people approach the way they approach it, and everybody has a different approach, and a lot of people are very successful in the way that they approach it. This is just the way it worked for me, and I've been lucky, to travel all over with Ali, to know Kobe Bryant since the time he was born until his last day was one of the great joys and great sorrows in my life. Both ends. Miss him dearly. But to be able to, had Tom Brady as a radio partner for 15 years, can you imagine being able to talk for a half an hour every week to Muhammad Ali, every week to Michael Jordan, every week to Babe Ruth? Well, that's what Brady did, and that's what Brady has done. He made himself accessible to do that radio show, and he shared it with the fans. All the people who were coming to see him, he gave back to them and did it. And so we did it on Westwood One, and then we did it on Sirius XM, on Mad Dog Radio, and on the podcast, and now on NFL Radio. And it's been great, but that you have to have a rapport to have the ability to be able to do that. And fortunately, I've had that rapport with those guys. And look at how much the public has been able to gain because we've all learned so much from those folks.
Jim Gray, has there been someone in your career, and you've been doing this obviously for a long time, you just went through the names that you talked to. Is there still someone that you say, okay, today I'm interested in interviewing this person. I would love to have a conversation with someone that you haven't had a conversation with yet?
I was all set to go talk to Pope Francis. Pope Francis was a huge soccer fan, obviously. Loved Argentina soccer. And we were all set up to go see him. And it got canceled because he was having respiratory issues. And then he got better, and we were going to reschedule, and unfortunately he passed away. So we were going to go do an interview with him, and that was something I was really looking forward to, having got to meet him for just a brief moment. Many years ago, we were over to do a fight in Sheffield, England. My wife and I went to the Vatican. So, he was a great friend of Mauricio Suleiman of the WBC, and so Mauricio had set it up for us to go. So that would have been great. No, I mean, I've been so fortunate. I've interviewed the last 11 presidents of the United States, and when you have the attention of somebody who is literally in charge of the free world, has all that power, that's been great. President Mandela was the most remarkable man I ever got to speak to and interview. Mikhail Gorbachev. So, when you say, is there somebody who I want to speak to, there are a lot of these folks who I would like to be able to sit down. There are a lot of great accomplished people. Carlos Alcaraz seems like he'd be fun to talk to. And
the way he moves on a tennis court is unreal.
Got to interview the Joker, and got to interview Serena and Federer and Rod Laver and Bjorn Borg and all of those guys. So I think he'd be kind of fun. I just don't cover tennis. But, no, I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the world, and I'm curious. So there's a lot of folks I'd like to, but kind of felt bad that not only that the Pope passed away, but, that was all set. And I think that he would have been able to help sports because the World Cup is coming to the United States. And soccer has been growing here for years, but I think the World Cup in 2026 will put us over the top where we will join the rest of the world in having this adventure with, the beautiful game. And so I think that, that's kind of, that was one that I really wanted to do.
From a storyline perspective, Jim Gray, the stories write themselves for this fight coming up on Saturday. But as you are someone who's an expert in telling the story, what's the story for you when you look at Canelo versus Crawford?
The story is that we have the institution possibly being restored because the best is fighting the best. And even though it's different weight divisions, Canelo has been the face of this sport since Mayweather retired, and he's been great. He's been a great ambassador. He's been a joy to watch. He's fought tremendous fights, and he's obviously huge to everybody in Mexico. When he fights, 80% of the people in Mexico are watching this thing, and he learned English, and so now he's just become more and more popular in the United States to go along with all of the talent. And then you've got Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford's 41-0. Okay, so even though he's a smaller man, less weight, he's coming up a couple divisions. What we have here, what's been put together by Dana White and Turkey, is the best fighting the best. And that is necessary for the institution, because what has happened is we haven't necessarily gotten that for a long time. If you look back, the last big fight, yes, there have been big fights, but the last one that we had our teeth into was Pacquiao and Mayweather.
Yeah, I would say Fury Wilder.
Fury Wilder was great, and the fact that Tyson Fury got up.
It's insane.
It's insane. I mean, Jack Reese kind of helped that. What did Jack Reese count to, like 23 that night? That was a terrible job. Terrible job. He did a terrible job. Awful job. But, the fact that he got up, was unbelievable.
So I'm 31. You've seen boxing at its heyday. Boxing outside of Wilder and Fury just has not resonated with my generation. How do we get boxing to resonate with my generation?
If this is a good fight, if this is fun, it'll be the most people to ever see it. They're fighting at Allegiant Stadium. Look at the buzz that's going on around the Fountain Blue. What is this? Thursday. Fight's Saturday night. Okay, look what's going on Wednesday. Look, they'll have the press conference tonight. Look what's going on in Vegas. It's all up and down the strip. Netflix is televising this. I'm fortunate to be a part of the broadcast. Netflix. Hundreds of millions of people will have this available to them, and you're not a pay-per-view. It's just with your subscription. So how great is that? So, it's going to be in a stadium where the Raiders play. They're going to play Monday Night Football there. All right? So we're going to have 55, 65, 70,000 people. Biggest audience ever in Las Vegas. The fight capital of the world to see this fight. So if it lives up to what it is that we hope it lives up to, if we have a great fight, then your generation, the people 31 and the people that are younger, will gravitate toward this because, they'll see that it's interesting. They'll see that it's fun. They'll see that it's great competition. They'll see the warriors that these two guys are and what they're putting themselves on the line. And they'll see that the attraction, what it became. And then they'll be able to look back at some of these old ones by going on YouTube and they'll say, that was the glory of their times. It can be again. And so with these promoters and what these people are trying to do, you have to applaud. You just have to say, great. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. You know who used to say that, right? Let's get it on. Who said that?
I do not know.
Mills Lane. Mills Lane. He was of course with Tyson and Holyfield, and that's what Mills used to say. And Mills was a great referee, and so they'll see what these guys are capable of, the athletic achievement, and the striving for that excellence. And, Crawford is 41-0, so he's got a big O behind it. He's got a big O behind his name, kind of like Floyd Mayweather did. So he's got that to chase. And, we have the trunks downstairs in the Hall of Excellence of the guy who had the O behind his name first, and that's Rocky Marciano, 49-0, the great heavyweight.
Well, Jim, we appreciate you stopping on by. Enjoy the fight coming up and the coverage on Netflix on Saturday.
Thank you, Zach. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
There
Good
you
luck
go.
to you.
The legendary Jim Gray joining us on the show. It is the Zach Gelb Show inside of the Fountain Blue. We'll take a timeout and we'll come on back after these short messages. The NFL season is rolling. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code GELB. That's code GELB for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Plus, you could be eligible to get over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket subscription from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boudreaux Casino and Resort, Kansas. Must be 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Must be present in state where it is lawful to wager. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets are non-cash credits that expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer valid until September 29th, 2025.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We are live in Las Vegas on behalf of Netflix, and we all know the fight that's going down this weekend, Canelo versus Crawford. We've been waiting for it for a long time, and now it's finally here. Jon Anik, who is the voice of the UFC, is going to be on the call, and we're thankful enough that John's going to join us on set here for a few minutes. John, great to see you. How you been?
Good to see you, man. It is just so great to be on Radio Row. You know, we don't get to do this for even the biggest UFC pay-per-views, so excited to be here, and only a few days out now, my man.
What can people expect? We always know your energy for the UFC. Now you go into the boxing world once again. When we tune in and we hear you on the call, what is it going to sound like?
Well, you're giving me 50,000 extra people behind me, so may sound trite, but I like to say a performance-enhancing drug for a commentator is a crowd, and we don't do a lot of stadium shows. You know, we did one in Melbourne, Australia back in the day. It was pretty vast, but the way Allegiant Stadium is built, to have 70,000 strong behind us is just going to be a tremendous elixir for our energy on the broadcast. But the one thing you can always control as a broadcaster, combat sports can be a victim to bad fights, but we can always control our energy, our passion, our ability to humanize these athletes, and that's been my focus. The research has been pretty insane for a guy who's been doing mixed martial arts exclusively for the last 15 years.
And I think it's cool, right, in our national audience, Max Kellerman is such a huge national name, and we haven't heard from Max in a little while since the exit from ESPN. So it's a cool moment that you guys get to team up with one another, and you get Max on a big national stage once again.
He's amazing. He is the lead boxing analyst, and he is the guy who this broadcast team was built around, you know, if I'm really peeling back the curtain for you. And, just honored to be working alongside him. You know, he was a little bit a part of our UFC coverage on ESPN, so it's not the first time we have worked together. And I think largely you either have chemistry or you're not. You know, me, and Andre Ward are going to rehearse tomorrow and sort of go through some old fights and sort of try to get our cadence down a little bit. But Max is just such a wealth of information. He's a steel trap when it comes to his brain and his memory. And I get asked a lot about this fight, and I'm deferential, right? Like, my opinion should really be checked to some sort of back burner, right? Because I lean into Andre and Max and the great boxing analyst that I've been privileged to rub shoulders with really over the last 2 weeks.
You know, I've become a big UFC fan through the years, where I watched it always, but really during COVID. There was nothing on. That's when I really plugged in, and I remember since we developed a relationship with Dana, and Dana comes on all the time, when I finally decided to go to a UFC event for the first time, I said, Dana, what can I expect? He goes, well, you're going to leave, and you won't know what to expect going in, but you're going to leave and you're going to be satisfied, which isn't always the case with boxing. So you now getting back into this world, when you walk out of the building late Saturday night, come out of Allegiant, what do you think you're going to be feeling?
I love that you brought that up, because the whole live event, the in-house experience, right? The UFC controls the entire production when it comes to the broadcast team, the in-house producers, right? And making sure the live event is memorable, because it's easy for me to say, if you've never been to a UFC live event, just go to one and then talk to me after and you'll be a UFC fan. But there's so much that goes into it. Sometimes Dana White's picking up the phone and he's like, let's move this thing forward, right? He's constantly monitoring what's going on to make sure that people aren't going to the concessions, that the fights are moving forward. And I'm charged with promoting this card in some respect, but Zach, I'm telling you, this is much more aligned like a UFC card when it comes to the depth. Undefeated fighters fighting each other. Like Dana and Turki Al-Sheikh, His Excellency, are trying to get boxing back to a place in which big fights are happening, not just in the main event, but on the main card. And even the featured prelim is a relevant rematch, a bout of consequence. You know, we have undefeated fighters on the prelims, and I think boxing has to get back to that, and if this is the jumping off point, so be it.
So if memory serves me right, Jon Anik, you interned at WEI?
I did.
Right?
Yes.
Did a little homework on you. I remember seeing that somewhere when you were doing an interview, I guess, at EEI when they were back at Boston for the UFC.
Yeah.
So you're a student of the game, right? So for my generation, when I think of the UFC, I think of you. Just like how when I think of the NBA, I think of Mike Breen. Football, a Jim Nance or Joe Buck, Al Michaels, Mike Tirico, whoever it may be, hockey for years, Doc Emmerich. To be in that class now where it's Jon Anik, you are the UFC guy. I know you're going into boxing this week.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, knowing the journey that you traveled to get here?
Well, it means a lot to hear Zach Gelb say it here, of course, and I appreciate that support. You know, why isn't Jim Lampley here, right? To me, he is the greatest of all time, right, when it comes to sort of combat sports, and I love Mauro Ranallo and all of these great boxing guys, right? But I'm just humbled to get this opportunity in this boxing world, right, because they could have honestly chosen anyone, and I think a lot of it is rooted rooted in just my willingness and love for preparation and research, and then maybe just the ability to sort of get that information out to the masses. And so that means a lot to me. I've tried to keep my head down and sort of check whatever ego is there over the course of my career. So to hear you say that, I don't necessarily lean into that, They do say the most basic human need is to feel appreciated, but, I feel appreciated by the people who I think matter, and you matter. So thank you for saying that. And, I think you're only as good as your last show, and I got a lot of points to prove, I think, here Saturday night. So.
How tight are you in Missoula? Because when I was in Chicago, I turned to the left, and I see you're wearing the Missoula shirt right now, and he was there for the first fight of the night, and he stayed there for the entire time. So you Missoula tight?
I got to spend some time with him the day of the show, and he had the former UFC welterweight champion Bilal Muhammad put him through a workout, and Joe arrived, and he said, I want you to absolutely kill me. And that just speaks to Missoula's mentality. But at the end of the day, and we're very close because he's a UFC fan and a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, right? He's an active grappler, and he just absolutely loves the UFC, and that's why we connected. But at the end of the day, he's a New England kid who grew up sort of in the Bill Belichick mold, right? Watching his greatness as a coach and what he may be.
Tarpio's pizza, probably.
Well, yeah, right. But one thing real quick that I talked to Joe Mazzulla about to peel back the curtain is, Brad Stevens, the former head coach and now chief executive, was much more willing to give out injury information to the media. And Joe Mazzulla is much more cut from the Belichick cloth. Why is he going to give you information that you don't need? So at the end of the day, he's a New England kid trying to deliver for that city, and he's just so humbled to have been able to deliver a championship already.
Now, I'm not saying, I'm friendly with Dana White, but we've had him on the show a lot, and people go, how'd you hit it off with Dana? It appears like Dana likes it. I'm like, I think I just asked him about food the first time. So you're a Boston kid. Is that how you kind of hit it off with Dana all those years ago?
It's interesting. I think Lorenzo Fertitta, our former owner, was really the impetus for me getting hired. It's funny. I don't know how much my Boston roots had to do with me getting hired or getting off to the right foot with Dana White back in 2011 when he brought me in. I'll never forget sort of covering John Jones and Shogun Rua, and a UFC executive, my now boss Craig Borsari, came up to me backstage and was like, we're doubling our live event inventory next year, and we got a play-by-play job for you, and I'm sitting there covering a live event for ESPN. I'm jumping out of my skin thinking I'm going to go work for Dana White. It's like, yeah, can I sign the contract tonight or should we wait? Oh, you're on the G4 Gaming Network? Sounds good to me. I'll leave ESPN right now, So Dana's been amazing to work for, and I think a lot of us New England guys, we just have an undeniable passion for sports. It's sort of in our blood, and it's definitely in his.
So I love Pereira. And see, in my world right now, it's NFL and it's college football.
Yeah.
And I was saying this to Hunter on the way in. I look at the card in October, and right now I am so excited just for that night. I'm already planning, right, have the guys come over. We're chilling. We're watching college football during the day. Then we're going to be watching UFC at night. How much does the UFC need Pereira to win this rematch? Because you get into the face of the sport, and, is the UFC faceless right now? And for someone like me who got into it as of late, I've been to a lot of these fights where Pereira's been in it, and seeing him lose a little while back was like, oh, man, that really just stinks for the sport.
And, when Alexander Volkanovski lost to Ilia Topuria, I know that was something that a lot of people were affected by. He's got so many American fans, does Volkanovski. But you're right, Alex Pereira is an undeniable superstar, and it's crazy to think he hasn't been on the cover of the video game yet, right? And he could be with a belt over each shoulder. So, yes, I do think promotionally, in terms of his drawing power going into a new 7-year television contract, I think it would be hugely useful were he to win that fight. You talk about the live event experience, and when he hits that tunnel, bro, and does the whole bow and arrow thing, it's just an incredible visual, and the aesthetic is unbelievable. But Magomed Ankalaev's got a point to prove. And I do believe, as the guy who largely, as you know intimately, is charged with building these stars and humanizing these athletes, there are always more superstars, right? Like Israel Adesanya only made his UFC debut in 2018. When did your guy Alex Pereira come to the UFC? So Rick Pitino famously said Larry Bird's not walking through that door. But, look at Ilia Topuria, Tom Aspinall, right? Those are probably the front runners to be on the cover of the next video game, Topuria and Aspinall, and where were they 3 or 4 years ago? So we got stars, my man. Hopefully we can get Zach on board with some of these young up-and-comers as well.
Last thing I'll ask you. So I was in Chicago, and I felt compelled to ask Dana about the White House card because I talk to more of the casual UFC fans, right? Like if this person wins, I'm not going to tell you who they're fighting next and all that stuff. And to me, that White House card is so big. And Dana and I had that exchange, and he said it's $1 billion to 1 that John Jones is going to be on that card. Is that him saying absolutely no chance John Jones is going to be in the White House card? And it feels like right now, just from afar, you know better than me, John Anik, that it's probably going to be McGregor, who I would never thought we were going to see fight again.
It's a great question. I certainly think there's a better chance that it's Conor McGregor than John Jones, right? At this point in time, yes. To go back to sort of the first part, I do believe that you got to take Dana White at his word. And John Jones does not lead the league in reliability. For me, he's the greatest mixed martial arts athlete I have ever seen, but I think if you were building the Zach Gelb Fighting Championships, John Jones would not be the guy you would build the White House card around. And even if you look at UFC 200 when Daniel Cormier fought Anderson Silva and not John Jones, and Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes ended up in the main event, you just need somebody who's wholly reliable, and that's why I think Conor McGregor on that card. Yeah, I mean, Conor's not going to take a second fiddle co-main event slot in theory, but in theory you're going to have 7 main events on that night. So, yes, at this point I would be absolutely stunned to see John Jones land on that fight card. And hopefully it's July 4th, 2026. I'm seeing rumors that it's in June. I mean, we have a Saturday, July 4th, 2026. Hopefully that's the date.
I think Dana knows a guy that could make sure it happens when you want it to happen. John Anik, have a great call on Netflix. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, my man.
Zach Gelb Show will take a time out, coming back from Las Vegas after these short messages.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
And this report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. The Packers and Commanders were both victorious Sunday, beating divisional opponents. One will fall tonight. The two teams kick off Week 2 in Green Bay, and the Pack got off to a fast start Sunday. Never looked back in a convincing win over the Lions. Quarterback Jordan Love said they've tried to make that a priority this season.
We've focused on, and it's definitely been a big focus for us the past 2 years as well, is just, as an offense, how do we come out, start as fast as possible, try and go down on that first drive and get points, because I think it sets you up for the rest of the game, and it just puts you in a great spot, gives guys that confidence to keep going and execute.
Bills defensive tackle Ed Oliver did not practice today because of an ankle injury and was seen wearing a walking boot. Baseball today, the Blue Jays opened the day with a 3-game lead in the American League East and closing out a series against the Astros, and right now have a 4-0 lead in the bottom of the 6th. Kevin Gausman has given up just 2 hits through 6 so far. Earlier today, the Orioles made it 8 of 9, sweeping the Pirates 3-2, and right now top of the 8th, it's the White Sox 5, Rays nothing. I'm Rich Hackett.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Alrighty, welcome back in. We are in Las Vegas at the Fountain Blue, getting you set for Netflix's production of Canelo versus Crawford that comes your way on Saturday on behalf of Netflix. This portion of the Zach Gelb Show is brought to you, though, by the great folks at Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. You know, it's kind of funny when you do these shows on location and you're in a ballroom like we are right now, where there's probably got to be 30 to 35 media outlets. I turned around and looked behind me, and I saw the YouTube chat. There was a tall guy that was to the right of me, and they thought that it was Tom Brady. And I go, that's definitely not Tom Brady. I would know if I was in the same room as Tom Brady. But then I turned to the left, and I didn't realize that Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp were literally doing their show live right behind us. So I thought for sure I would be the loudest person in this building. I thought for sure, but I think Shannon Sharp is going to have me beat there. All righty, let's update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We will get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, we'll head to our friends on Good Morning Football. Ian Rappaport on the latest on Brock Purdy's injury. I know turf toe is a pain in the ass. Is he really going to miss 5 weeks because of this? I know that the range that Rap Sheet just gave you was 2 to 5 weeks. If he's missing 5 games, I'd be so. If we're seeing him out for the Saints, the Cardinals, the Jaguars, short week against the Rams, and then Tampa Bay, and he doesn't come back until October 19th against the Falcons, I would be stunned. I really would be stunned. So if it's New Orleans and Arizona, then it's maybe, okay, let's see where they're at. And I would think they could split New Orleans and Arizona. And remember, they're already 1-0 because they beat Seattle last week 17-13. So if you could just split these next 2 games, which is very splittable, you could still win both, even with Mac Jones as the quarterback. But if you could be 2-1 after week 3, maybe they say, okay, let's roll the dice and maybe go, it's weird to say a Mac Jones revenge game because he was a backup quarterback with Jacksonville last year and got some starts at the end of the season when Trevor Lawrence got hurt. Then maybe that does roll over into a 3rd week. But I got to imagine that if you're telling me he's going to be closer to 2 or 5, and let's say 3 is right in that middle, or missing 3 games would be right in that middle, I would say that it's going to be closer to him missing 2 games rather than it is him missing 5 games, would just be my guesstimation right there. Let's go to Dan Orlovsky, why it's a must-win for the Lions this week, as you have Detroit that is 0-1. This was courtesy of First Take. There are must-wins, there are can't-loses, and there's you-gotta-have-its. Stu, on that scale, must-win, can't-lose, you-gotta-have-it. Lions up against the Bears this weekend with the Lions being 0-1, and then the Ravens the following week on Monday Night Football. What would that be to you?
Oh, I mean, that's a gotta-have-it. That's like a 9 out of 10 in my book.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those where you could still recover even if you start the year off 0-2. So I'm not going to call it a must-win. It's a can't-lose or you got to have it. You know what? I was going to say you got to have it, Stu. But I think that's a can't-lose. I think you just can't lose to Ben Johnson, and you can't lose to the Chicago Bears. I understand you, the Detroit Lions, and the history, right, shouldn't be one of success. But the last 2 years, you've been one of the more successful teams in the NFL. And the reason why you just can't lose that game is if you do, everyone's going to sit there and they're going to discredit the coach in Dan Campbell. They're going to discredit the quarterback in Jared Goff, and they're going to start to say maybe it was Ben Johnson who was behind all that success the last 2 years with the Detroit Lions. So just real quickly here, Stu, entertain me. Lions, Bears this weekend, who wins?
I say the Lions win this week.
Lions at Ravens next week.
I'll go with the Ravens.
Lions and Browns.
Lions.
Lions at Bengals.
I'd still say the Lions.
Okay. Lions at the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Lions, Buccaneers.
Lions.
Okay. Lions, Vikings.
Where is that?
That is in Detroit.
I'll say they win that one. They'll split.
Okay. Lions at Commanders.
Commanders.
Ooh, how about that? Lions at Eagles.
Ooh, Eagles.
Lions Giants.
Lions.
Lions Packers.
Where's that?
That would be at Green Bay. They just played. That would be at Detroit. They just played at Green Bay.
Yeah. I'll say they win that one.
Okay. Lions Cowboys.
Lions.
Lions at the Rams.
Rams.
Lions Steelers.
Lions.
Lions at the Vikings.
I'll say the Vikings.
Lions at the Bears.
Lions.
So you have them going 10 wins this year. That's 10 wins. And Stu could be maybe wrong on one or two in a positive or wrong on one or two in a negative. That's why that's why Sunday is so important up against the Chicago Bears. That's just a game that you just can't lose. I almost said you got to have it, but then I would have been agreeing there with Stu. Let's go to Jordan Love on what makes the Packers offense so good. You do get the Packers tonight up against the Commanders. And we get that side with the Green Bay Packers on the offensive side. Now let's get to the defensive side. Micah Parsons knows Jaden Daniels is going to be a tough matchup, has a lot of respect for him after their 1 year in the same division with the Commanders and the Cowboys at the time. Now, obviously, Micah Parsons with the Green Bay Packers. I know what he did in year one was so impressive, Jaden Daniels, but what makes it even more impressive is the way that veterans, guys that have been in the league for at least a few years, they talk and just show the respect that they do have for Jaden Daniels. Let's go to Marlon Humphrey of the Ravens. He says this team will be more accountable than they were last year. I wonder how much is that player speak? Is he just saying that because it sounds good, or is there actually meaning behind that? I don't know the answer. But the Ravens now have three problems. They walked into this year with the problem of not being able to beat Buffalo when it matters. They lose to Buffalo in the regular season after being up for the majority of the game. They also walked into the season with having a problem in not being able to beat Kansas City when it matters. And now they have a third problem, and that was on full display on Sunday Night Football, really towards the end of week one, that isolated spot at NBC and Westwood One. And that problem is when they get big leads, John Harbaugh and company, they choke those leads a lot. You're up 14, 15 points with 5 minutes remaining. That's a 99.1% win probability. So even when you're in a big game and you have a lead, people are going to be looking at the Ravens, and the moment they let up and they allow a touchdown, they cut it to a one-score game, people are going to start to say, uh-oh, here we go again. So those three things for the Ravens you got to watch. Bills, Chiefs, and then when they have a lead, can they find a way to slam the doors shut? We were talking about Tyreek Hill and all the speculation yesterday with the off-the-field problems and then also the trade speculation as well. Mike Florio did go on the Rich Eisen show right here on the Infinity Sports Network, and he lists two possible destinations if Tyreek Hill were to get traded away for the Miami Dolphins. You know what? I haven't thought about the Steelers for that. Now, the Steelers, right, were in that conversation 2 years ago, the last 2 years. Oh, could you get a Terry McLaurin? Other receivers that were made available, and they eventually made the trade for DK Metcalf, and they also got rid of George Pickens. So they've been in the market. Brandon Ayuk was another one. They've been in a market for really upgrading wide receivers. But if you're in a spot where you haven't won a playoff game since what? The 2016 season, and you have Aaron Rodgers, and this is probably a one-year experiment, and you have DK Metcalf, and you could probably use more on that offensive side of it, I think a guy like Mike Tomlin, with the way that he's handled players, he gets the benefit of the doubt, and that would be a team that if they traded for him, even with controversy, I don't think would be slamming the Steelers. Now, the Chiefs make so much sense. And he has another year left on this contract. He's not a free agent again until 2027. But Kansas City, they're in the penthouse, even though they lost week 1. They could afford to go get a reunion with Tyreek Hill. But those are the two teams right there. I was not thinking the Steelers. When I saw the slug line of two potential teams, I wasn't thinking the Steelers, but definitely was thinking the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go to Adam Silver, Spineless Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, on the rising cost for fans to watch and attend games with all the streaming services. Here's the problem. I kind of, and I'm not a big fan of Adam Silver. I understand what he's saying, but when you're the commissioner of the league, you can't say that. If someone's asking you a question, hey, the cost of streaming services are just going up and up and up, what do you say to a fan with how much it's going to cost them, or a fan that can't afford it? And if your answer is just, hey, the NBA is a highlight league, which, let's be real, during the regular season, the NBA could be a snooze fest at times. Unless if you have good seats, or unless if you're just seeing these crazy highlights, the NBA regular season, out of all the 4 major sports, it feels like it is the most irrelevant regular season. We've talked more about Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith and Ernie Johnson and Shaq more than we do the NBA regular season games. But your commissioner can't be saying, oh, well, if you can't afford it, just go on TikTok, just go on Twitter, just go on Instagram. You'll have enough there because of just how much we have highlights of the league. It just, you got to sell me more on the product. And the NBA continuously misses that, where they don't sell you enough on their product, and it operates off-season headlines, postseason play, and then really the regular season is caught in dead last. But that's what Adam Silver has done. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, 2 hours down in Las Vegas. We got one more hour to play. We got a whole lot more cooking coming up in hour number 3. We'll see who else will join us along the way. Also, we do have a Green Bay Packers game tonight for Week 2 to kick off the season as they welcome in the Washington Commanders. Looking forward to that. We're rocking and rolling back from Vegas after these short messages.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, coast to coast. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We are live in Las Vegas, inside of the Fountain Blue. Beautiful hotel, obviously. And we are here on behalf of our friends at Netflix for Canelo versus Crawford. That's going to go down in Allegiant Stadium on Saturday night. Saturday night is the big fight. You can watch it on Netflix. And I don't think I've ever been to a boxing match in person. I just realized that. So not a bad one to make my debut at. I had to clean that up there for a second and what I was thinking about in saying it a different way for Canelo versus Crawford, as I will be seeing that in person on Saturday. It's a bunch of UFC fights, but I've never been to a boxing fight in person. And that's been the thing. Boxing with my generation, it just really has not resonated. And I think a major problem was just how Floyd Mayweather danced around the whole Pacquiao situation. And then when the fight happened, it was way too late. And as someone that's now 31 years old, and I think it's telling when Jim Gray kind of even just glossed over it, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, those to me, and we had Fury on the show, he was great. That was a really good interview, and you get through his story and some of the mental health problems that he had to overcome and addiction problems that he had to overcome in life. And I remember they told us we got like 8 minutes with him, and we ended up doing a 20-minute interview with Tyson Fury before he ended up fighting Deontay Wilder. But that was, for someone that's me, that's when boxing really did resonate with my generation. But since then, you get these gimmick fights with draw people's in. They draw people, and they're usually better than what we thought. Remember when Mayweather fought Conor McGregor? It was a lot better than what a lot of people thought. And you got the Jake Paul storyline that really does always generate a lot of conversation and heightens, people's attention and awareness and piques their interest. But this fight, and I like the way that Jim Gray did it and said it, if Canelo and Crawford, if the juice ends up being worth the squeeze, which I don't know how to determine if it's going to be, and that's been the problem when you go into an arena, right? Even for UFC, I haven't really left an arena, maybe one time in Newark, where I sit back and I go, oh, I thought it was going to be a little bit better than what it was. But sometimes you think you have a great fight and it just doesn't pan out. If Canelo and Crawford pans out to be the way that it is being hyped, I'm not sitting here and telling you that everyone's now going to all be in all of a sudden back in on boxing, because I do think the UFC has won over my generation, obviously a lot more than boxing has done. But I'd be curious to see what the domino effect is from that. And that's why I thought the perspective from Jim Gray earlier was just really an intriguing listen for someone that's been around the game and loves the game and loves the sport for so many years. Alrighty, obviously when we talk about loving sports, we love the NFL, we love college football this time of the year. And another week of the NFL season does kick off tonight along with college football. And in the NFL world, we know we have the Green Bay Packers going up against the Washington Commanders. So Stu, I know you've identified a few matchups here, quarterback-only matchups. This QB or that QB, that is the question. Give me the matchups in college, and then we will get to the matchups in NFL between the quarterbacks, and I will tell you who I want for this week only. Not the rest of the season, not the rest of their careers, but just this week only. Stu, take it away.
All right, let's start in the ACC where we have Haynes King going up against Cade Klubnik.
Oh, boy. I think I'm in on Haynes King. I was in on Haynes King before the start of the season. He reminds me, I'm not saying he's Tim Tebow, right? Tim Tebow is, in my opinion, the greatest college football quarterback of all time. But the will, the desire, the want to, he will run through anybody to go get the victory. And Haynes King has a better arm than Tebow did. That's who Haynes King reminds me of in his want to, his desire, and his will. Cade Klubnik, I know he had 36 touchdowns, I believe it was last year, but he looked god-awful up against LSU. And that was so disappointing for a guy. It's supposed to be his year. It's supposed to be, right, them win a national championship, maybe him being the number one pick in the draft. And I was so turned off by Cade Klubnik, and there was a carryover effect into the next week where they almost dropped that game, and that would have been a terrible start to their season. So I will trust Haynes King more. I believe he's more of a gamer, and if that game is close late, I'd rather have Haynes King on my team compared to Cade Klubnik.
All right, going to the SEC, we have a top 15 matchup. We have Gunnar Stockton and his Georgia Bulldogs visiting Joey Aguilar and the Tennessee Volunteers.
That's a tough one because Gunnar Stockton, it's based off of potential, and most of us have only seen Joey Aguilar for a very small sample size, and clearly Joey Aguilar, he is involved in that Nico Iamaleava situation because they basically swap roles, Nico Iamaleava and Joey Aguilar. I'm going to lean Gunnar Stockton here in this one. I believe you're going to get a lot of people picking Tennessee. I will go with Gunnar Stockton, and usually when you have a toss-up, I give Georgia the benefit of the doubt.
All right, what about DJ Lagway coming off of that loss and his Florida Gators going up against Garrett Nussmeier at LSU at Tiger Stadium?
I think what many people thought Cade Klubnik was going to be, where he would just be the most consistent quarterback in college football this year, I believe now Garrett Nussmeier, after that Week 1 victory, has the chance to do what people thought Cade Klubnik was going to do. And DJ Lagway, he's supposed to be all that. He's clearly not 100% healthy. I know that DJ Lagway is a more talented and was thought to be a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. And I know it's very similar because it's at Florida. But we were hyped up and we were led to believe that Anthony Richardson was going to be great. And we never saw Anthony Richardson be great for a sustained moment and sustained moments with Florida. So I now look at DJ Lagway, and I think we're starting to see, even though he'll be better than Anthony Richardson, I think that Lagway is a more of a wild card, especially with now everyone turning against that program after losing to USF. So I will take Garrett Nussmeier, who is an experienced, a more proven, and I think a more consistent quarterback.
All right, one more in the SEC. Diego Pavia, he has Vanderbilt at 2-0. And Lenore Sellers, he also has his team 2-0, and that is South Carolina, of course.
This one's tough. If you tell me for the season, I would go Lenore Sellers. For one game, in a moment to kind of send a message here, and I didn't love the way that Lenore Sellers looked up against Virginia Tech 2 weeks ago, something just tells me Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt are going to win this game. And I've been a big South Carolina supporter. I like Shane Beamer. Lenore Sellers was on the show. Most people would say Lenore Sellers. I'm just getting a feeling that this is a Diego Pavia game. So give me Diego Pavia.
All right. Under the lights at Notre Dame, you have C.J. Carr making his second career start for the Fighting Irish, 1-0 after losing to Miami against Marcel Reed, who came on for Texas A&M late last year and looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did leave the game last week with an injury, but he says he's going to be A-okay and he'll be there for the Notre Dame game. I actually do like that kid, Miles O'Neill. I was talking about him in the offseason when I was talking to Josh Booty, and we went out for dinner one night, and he was just raving about this kid, Miles O'Neill, who would be the backup there at A&M. So I think that's a player maybe to watch for the future. But this is all about Marcel Reed right now. Oh, boy, Stu. I was actually impressed by Carr, even in the loss to Miami.
Me too.
I'm not saying it was J.J. McCarthy-esque, but there were some really bad moments. And even though they didn't win the game, I thought you could see the potential there. And Marcel Reed is a little bit more of a wild card. But I think going into – if this game was later on in the season, I think we will be saying C.J. Carr. But since it's now earlier in the season, even with the injury concern, I'm going to say Marcel Reed. Where are you at on your quarterback in C.J. Carr? Because you remember, in the offseason, I thought for sure he was going to win the job. And then who was it? Kenny Menchie, I believe, was
Kenny
the guy
Menchie.
that was in the quarterback competition. And then for a hot second, with how long it was taking to make that determination and make that decision that it was going to be C.J. Carr, many people thought that then he wasn't going to win that job there for a 2-day stretch. So I know it's only one game, and I know they lost, and they could have easily won it, and I think they need to hand the football more off to Jeremiah Love. Where are you at through one game with C.J. Carr? Because if Notre Dame loses this game, Last year, right, they lose to NIU. The schedule was easy. They bounce back. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they go all the way to the national championship game. Everyone was back in on the bandwagon of Marcus Freeman, and most of us consider Marcus Freeman a top 5 coach entering this college football season. With a team with a national championship contender and a team that was in the national championship game a year ago, if you lose in week 1 to Miami and then you lose to A&M at 0-2, you can't afford to lose another game the rest of the season. And this Notre Dame schedule is tougher this year. I look at that. This feels like this is a game for Notre Dame. They have to win. They have to win. And this is a huge pressure moment for C.J. Carr. So where are you at on your quarterback, Stu, and C.J. Carr?
Yeah, like you said, I kind of like what I saw from him. I don't put that loss against Miami at Miami on him. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but he had some really good moments. And honestly, the blame for that game for me goes more to the play calling, as you mentioned, not giving the ball to Jeremiah Love enough, the offensive line for not getting enough of a push, and then at times the defensive line, who is supposed to be the shining spot of this defense, they got pushed around too. So against an A&M team that probably isn't as big as Miami, but are still pretty big, I'm a little concerned, but it's honestly not too much about the quarterback at home, to be honest with you.
Hey, Stu, when I think of great hair, I think of Tom Pelissero. I think of Ryan Hot Take Hickey. I think of Evan Washburn. Two-Tone Tony in the YouTube chat. And I just took a look and got confirmation. And I see you on camera right now. Your hair's looking pretty good today, Stu.
I'll take it. I guess it's because I have the better camera in front of me. Maybe it's making it shine a bit more. But I will take that. I will take that compliment.
Move over, Hot Take Hickey.
Oh no.
We may have a new hair guy at the Infinity Sports Network. All righty, who's the next one?
All right, our last college one here, you have Byron Brown, who has led South Florida to 2 really nice wins up against Boise State and Florida, against Carson Beck, who we mentioned just a few minutes ago, who looked really good in his Miami debut.
So here's the thing with Carson Beck. I would say, in terms of the national spotlight, because they've played who? Bethune-Cookman, I believe, last week, if memory serves right with Miami. They slaughtered them.
Yeah.
In the national spotlight, you would feel for a second, hey, isn't this the perfect letdown spot, right? People back in on the confidence with Carson Beck from the Notre Dame game 2 weeks ago to open up the college football season, and now it's another big spot in the CW network. Whoever said that? I think that's the first time we've ever said that on the Infinity Sports Network. But then I look at Florida, and South Florida I'm talking about. Can they really win again? Like, if Alex Golesh wins again, pick whatever job you want in the country next year that has an opening. Because you then would start the season beating Boise State, which is a top 25 team. Then you would beat Florida, and then you would beat Miami. That would be insane. USF would have to skyrocket up the rankings as long as the AP voters are actually paying attention, unlike that one reporter who was out covering USC and then didn't move USF into her top 25 and move Florida up 2 spots after a loss to USF. So for part of me wants to say, okay, maybe this is that letdown spot for Carson Beck where he shows that inconsistencies, but I just think South Florida has done all they could up against these top 25 teams, and I do think South Florida will obviously have a chance to make the college football playoff this year, and just losing this game to Miami won't rule them out. And if they do win the American, they should feel good about their chances of making the college football playoff. But I'm going to sit there and actually say I'm going to go with Carson Beck this week. And even though there's a little fear that there's going to be a letdown, at the end of the day, I think Carson Beck and the Canes are going to find a way to walk out of the victory. Whether it's clean or whether it's ugly, I think they'll find a way to get the job done. So give me Carson Beck.
All right, let's move on to the NFL here. Let's start with tonight's game. We have the Commanders and Packers, both 1-0. What about Jordan Love against Jaden Daniels?
I'll go Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback. Both these rosters are very good, but and this is what the toss-up is, and I do believe that Jordan Love can be a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers, or bare minimum get to an NFC Championship game. But Jaden Daniels is an elite quarterback right now. He feels as if he's the 5th or 6th best quarterback in the league. And if you just said, okay, roster's the same, do you go Jaden Daniels or do you go with Jordan Love? I'm taking Jaden Daniels in that one.
All right, let's go to the AFC East. You have the second-year man, your quarterback, Drake May, going up against Tua after that brutal game against the Colts.
Can I take neither? And that's not a shot at Drake May.
Yeah.
That's more of a shot at the play calling. I was talking to, after John Anik did the interview with us, he has an identical twin. And he's a huge fan of the Patriots. And we were talking about this. Jason Anik, very nice guy, by the way. Josh McDaniels needs to trust Drake May more. They need to. This is not Tom Brady, where you could dink and dunk and then take a deep shot down the field. Drake May is an athletic, mobile, big-arm quarterback. I want him to be more aggressive. I want to take more shots down the field. And I felt like him and the Pats were too conservative. They were too just afraid in week one. But on the other side, Tua looked god-awful. And does anyone trust that bozo? Now I sound like Rex Ryan, nerd. Does anyone trust right now Mike McDaniel? I don't. So I will go with the guy, even though he's more unproven and Tua's had more success in this league. I'll take Drake May because, man, Tua, he feels like he's damaged goods at this point.
All right, what about the second-year quarterback, Bo Nix, who probably didn't look that great against the Titans on Sunday, against someone who did look great on Sunday, and that is Daniel Jones?
This is one game, right?
This is one game, yes.
I can't believe I'm saying this.
Ooh.
One game. Based off what he did last week, the dual threat abilities, and how I just was not really all that impressed with the Broncos, at the end of the season, I'd rather have Bo Nix. For the rest of their career, I'd rather have Bo Nix. But I think the Indiana Jones train is my pick here. I'm going with Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, just for this week.
Okay. How about the matchup that a lot of people are looking forward to on Sunday, the Super Bowl rematch? You have Jalen Hurts against Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes. Hurts has the better team. Hurts has outplayed Mahomes twice in the Super Bowl. If the Chiefs are going to win, this is going to have to be a Patrick Mahomes game. The Eagles on paper are just a better team, and there's still that thought of me. Even though I did say yesterday I think the Eagles are going to win the game and that the Chiefs are going to start 0-2, there's still that fear factor as you sit here on a Thursday, and you got to have it marinate on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. There's a part of me that says, Zach, didn't you see this with Brady for years? When we sat here and we said, oh, the other team's more talented than the Patriots, and then Brady found a way to win the game. That's why I'm going Mahomes this week. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes.
All right, what about this rematch of the national championship from a couple years ago? Two guys we haven't seen too much of, Michael Penix Jr. and J.J. McCarthy, who is making his second NFL start.
I'm taking J.J. McCarthy. What he did last week is going to unlock a lot of stuff. You will see a confident J.J. McCarthy. You saw a scared J.J. McCarthy through the first half and even bleeding over a little bit to the third quarter. I trust J.J. McCarthy more. I'm a fan of Michael Penix Jr. I'm not going to sit here and say I love Michael Penix Jr. He's got a big arm now. He's got a big arm, but it's the more intermediate, shorter throws that are more of a concern to me. He did enough to go win that game, last week up against Tampa Bay. The kicker, Younghoe Koo, just got to make the kick, and he's usually a pretty good, reliable kicker as it is. But J.J., off of that week, the mobility that he displayed as well, and him just being a winner. Like, when I think of J.J. McCarthy, they're more talented quarterbacks. There's better quarterbacks. But in the right situation, which he's in Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy, to me, the first word I think of is winning. J.J. McCarthy, I'll take him because he's a winner.
All right, last one here. We have a bit of a fun one on Monday night, the first of a doubleheader. What about Baker Mayfield against C.J. Stroud?
Oh, that's a great one. I'm going Baker. Baker, to me, plays with more confidence. Baker, to me, plays with more moxie. He plays with more swagger. Now, both these guys are tough son of a guns. They are. You look at Baker Mayfield. We thought his career was over after Cleveland. We thought his career was over after Carolina. And he has been a top 10 quarterback with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. C.J. Stroud got off to a hot start. C.J. Stroud took the Texans from the outhouse to the penthouse. And last year he didn't play well, but they still got to the divisional round. C.J. Stroud just did not look good last weekend. And I know they changed up the offensive line. I know they've had some injuries. But I think Baker Mayfield is just the more consistent quarterback, and he plays with less fear. So I'm going to go Baker Mayfield right there. All righty, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, live in Las Vegas. Netflix has us out here for Canelo versus Crawford. Can't wait for it to be in the building coming up on Saturday. We'll take a timeout, and we'll be back from Vegas with more right after these short messages. The NFL season is rolling. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code GELB. That's code GELB, G-E-L-B, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, you could be eligible to get over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket subscription from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Must be 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Must be present in state where it is lawful to wager. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets are non-cash credits that expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket off for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer valid until September 29th, 2025.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Alrighty, things are heating up in Las Vegas. We are counting down the days until Saturday when Netflix will put on a great production of Canelo versus Crawford. And we appreciate our friends at Netflix for getting us on out here, as we are obviously here live today. We'll be here live tomorrow, and we'll be giving you 2 great shows from Las Vegas. I'll go to the fight on Saturday, and then on Sunday I'm going to be going to one of our Las Vegas affiliates to do Sunday morning football, which after being out in Vegas on Saturday night, that could be a dark, lonely place Sunday morning. Because Sunday morning football is from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. So that is 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific. And I got to travel a little bit to get there. You know, we're staying in the Fontainebleau, which is a beautiful hotel, by the way. And I think Samter's okay with this room. I'm going to assume. You never know with Samter when you travel with him. Samter, I've seen him walk right in and get upgraded right into a balcony suite. And that one time we stayed at the Cosmopolitan. Last night I thought you were pulling some funny business though. We check in, it's late. We took off last night, probably like 8:30, 8:40 p.m. Eastern time in New York, and we go to check in. I go to the desk, I check into my room. I'm just being a courteous, kind person. I could have said, Samter, I've been with you all day. I'm just going to bed. Goodbye. But I sat there and I said to myself, you know what? Let me see what Mike is doing, and I'll wait for him. And Mike was talking to the person at the concierge desk on the check-in. It must have been 8 or 9 minutes. And I'm expecting you to walk over and be like, I got upgraded. You know, I had some points or I had some club access. And it just took you a while to check in.
Apparently I'm very shady because, honestly, the dude, you got checked in.
Right away.
Like, you started after me. And then
they actually brought me to the VIP line.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. I was there first, and then I'm talking to the guy, super nice. He made like 3 phone calls if maybe something was wrong with my reservation. I'm a shady-looking dude. Shady.
Oh, my God.
Shady. I said shady-looking dude.
Didn't that sound like something else there?
It did. Let's take the mic away from Samter for a little bit.
The look on your face. No, I said shady.
That did not sound
Nico
like shady to me.
Same look.
That did not sound like you said LaShawn Shady McCoy. It did not sound like you said that. It sounded like you said Hitty.
Stu, go back and check the tape. That was shady. Shady.
I think the tape may not go in your favor there. Like if I was Stu and Nico, I don't have a dump button in front of me, so this is me just backing up the bus and throwing Stu and Nico underneath it. If they didn't dump that and there's a problem, that's on Stu and Nico. That's not on me.
I'll pay the fine.
You sure about that?
Nah.
Yeah,
I said shady.
Expense the fine?
I said shady.
So they thought you were shady last night when you were checking
I don't know. It took 20 minutes for me to check in. It took you 4 minutes to check in.
I think it took me 90 seconds to check in.
It was
Inserted
nuts.
the credit card. Boom. They said, okay, this the whole thing's already paid for. This is just for the deposit or whatever you have to put it down for potential damage that I may cause to the room and whatnot. And by the way, the snacks in the room aren't free, right?
Oh, wait. What? The M&Ms? Like the whole big bag of M&Ms?
There's a big sign that it says, once you pick up the container, you have 60 seconds to put it back, or else they charge you.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's a good thing we have a stipend here because I think I just ate, my my salary's worth of M&Ms.
Yeah, what'd you have, 3 M&Ms?
Yeah. I don't know if that's a knock on my salary or how expensive M&Ms are, but either way, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, I saw that last night. I was like, "Ooh, look at these M&Ms! Look at these Reese's peanut butter cups! Look at these! I think they had like some cashews and things like that." And then I go, "Oh, they're not free. They are not free."
No.
So where were we going with this, by the way, before we just started?
Well, how nice the hotel is, and here at the Fontainebleau,
and we're here,
it's a beautiful place,
and we thank Netflix for sending us out here with Canelo versus Crawford.
Yeah.
So Stu, I got a question. 2 stories for you.
Okay.
One story one story I don't know if you know.
Okay.
So do you want the story that you know first, or do you want the surprise story first? It's up to you.
Give me the one that I know first.
Okay. So the one that you know first actually has some audio. Pablo Torre, who's been all over this Kawhi Leonard stuff, and how the Clippers allegedly tried to circumvent the salary cap with this tree planting company, Aspiration, and how Kawhi Leonard was getting all these no-show jobs. Well, Pablo Torre has now uncovered a new investment into Aspiration made by Steve Ballmer's former Harvard roommate. Go ahead. Dun, dun. More there. And this is going to become a disaster for the league. Here is Adam Silver, who just tried to claim the other day, oh, yeah, when that story came out through Pablo Torre, that was the first time that I've ever heard of it. I call cap, baloney, hogwash on that. Let's hear Adam Silver. He says the NBA will need definitive proof that the Clippers cheated in order to punish them. That sounds to me like Spineless Silver is basically saying, I'm waiting to determine what the public outrage is going to be and how long there is going to be public outrage. When this story first came out, I thought there was public outrage. In the last 24 hours or so, not a lot of public outrage here. Because at the end of the day, whether people like the way that I say this or not, it's still the Clippers at the end of the day. And I know Stu's probably sitting there back at our New York City headquarters with the grin. And I also think it's going to be how much do the owners want to pursue this. Because the case, and I'm not saying Pablo Torre is 100% right, and he got everything right, but this seems pretty black and white to me. There doesn't seem to be that much gray. So with that being said, I believe it's the fan public outrage and what the internal outrage is by owners who also know they have some skeletons in their closets as well. So that's something that will continue to circle, but I'm sure this isn't the last that you've heard from Pablo Torre about this. All righty, Stu, you want the surprise story?
Yes, the surprise story would be great here.
Now, there's a chance you saw this.
Okay.
I don't know, full disclosure, if you saw it or not. On a potential NFL return, one person said, quote, I wouldn't say never while talking to Dan Patrick, close quotes. Do you know who that person was?
I do, because I know who Dan Patrick had on today, but I did not see or hear this. Wow. Okay.
Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say never, Carr told Patrick, reading this via Awful Announcing, because I've learned that when I say never, it usually happens. I think we've all probably learned that. For me, I'm training because I love to train. That's going to be the rest of my life. I love to train. I throw a football every now and then with my kids and to my buddy for fun because it's part of my rehab for my shoulder. I'm still doing those things. I've always felt like even though I'm done, if God wanted me to do it, I got to be ready. I don't want to go out there and not be ready. I'll be ready, but I'm not coming back. Right now, today, I'm not coming back, close quotes. I said this the day Derek Carr retired. he will definitely play football once again, Stu. There is no doubt. He didn't want to play for the Saints anymore. The Saints, he thought he was mistreated by the Saints, and with how that all went down. And I don't think that was necessarily he didn't want to play football anymore. He just thought he was being held hostage by the Saints, and he didn't want to be there anymore. And that's how the way that this thing, in my opinion, did go down. Do you think Derek Carr will play once again, your former quarterback?
I do. I just think he can. Yeah, I think he'll be back. It is funny though. I thought he did a good. I don't know if you saw the
his analyst work.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the rest of the broadcast was not good, but I thought that part of it, the pregame stuff and him doing the film room stuff was pretty good actually.
Yeah, I didn't catch that part. That was on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Kay Adams. Kay Adams with Cam, it just didn't seem good. Like it was just too positive for me. And I'm not saying that we need negativity, but I thought it was just too jovial, buddy. I know he works on our network, but I thought Rich Eisen at times sounded a little bit robotic. I think Kurt Warner's good. But that broadcast, Chris Long, we tried to play the audio yesterday. That was the first time to curse. Chris Long, I think he's right, and I gather the numbers didn't do all that well from what I read online, but who knows, and how that gets spun. But when I take a glance at that broadcast, it wasn't made for me, and it's not like I'm a decrepit old man. I'm only 31 years old. And if that broadcast wasn't made for me, imagine people older than me. They probably were lost there. And the NFL, I don't think they need to do things like that to kind of suck up to an audience. I don't. But obviously, the NFL is undefeated. Whatever they do, hey, we're still going to be sitting there and placing our bets and watching the games each and every Sunday. But Derek Carr's 34 years old. I do believe that Derek Carr is going to be playing quarterback and coming out of retirement. Maybe not this year, but probably next year, or at least try a comeback attempt. All righty, we'll take one more time out here from Las Vegas on this Thursday. We do have another show for you tomorrow from 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network on Sirius XM 375, your local Infinity Sports Network affiliate, the Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and also streaming live on YouTube. Let's send it back to our New York City headquarters, and let's get to the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And this report is brought to you by Advantage Gold. Championships are built on defense, and so are winning retirement portfolios. Call Advantage Gold today at 800-900-8000 and see how gold and silver can help protect and secure your retirement. Week 2 of the NFL season kicks off tonight with a pair of contenders meeting in Green Bay. The Packers host the Commanders, both victorious on Sunday, knocking off division foes. In addition to both teams being among the best in the NFC, both have stars. The Commanders drafted theirs in 2024 in Jaden Daniels. The Packers acquired theirs, Micah Parsons, the week before the season opened. And the Washington quarterback has certainly taken note of the Packers' D.
They're flying around. If you see the last game, man, they were flying around. They're very sound up front. They want to keep everything in front of us so they can rally and tackle and let those guys get out there to passer.
Parsons is listed as questionable with a sore back, but had the same designation Sunday and was able to play. Ed Oliver's status for Sunday against the Jets is uncertain after he missed practice today because of an ankle injury that had him in a walking boot. Kevin Gausman goes the distance on a 2-hitter, struck out 9, walked 1. The Blue Jays blanked the Astros 6-0. The Orioles swept the Pirates 3-2, and the White Sox 5-1 winners over the Rays. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, one more segment today in Las Vegas. I am told Dana White is going to join us tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that conversation. We had some good chats with John Anik earlier and also Jim Gray, so enjoyed both those conversations. So we should have Dana White on the program coming up for you tomorrow. We're live in Vegas today, and we'll be here also tomorrow from 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, the same way you always listen to us across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and also streaming live on YouTube. Let's do this, though, right now for a second before I give you a thought on the game coming up tonight between the Green Bay Packers and the Washington Commanders at Lambeau Field. Tony Rizzo, who's covered Cleveland sports and the Browns forever for ESPN Cleveland. This is what he said on the chatter that Bailey Zappi is the Browns' scout team quarterback. Quote, I'm hearing Shedeur is not even running scout team. Why is he even on the team? Why is he even here? And close quotes. I think it's a safe question. You have Shedeur, and a fair question. You have Shedeur Sanders, and you're going to have Bailey Zappi running scout team. I'm not going to sit there and pretend I know how all the reps are divided up, and Shedeur is a third-string quarterback, so you would anticipate that Shedeur Sanders is basically going to get very little to zero reps in practice. He's a third-string quarterback. He's an emergency quarterback. He's not expected to see the field. But what are they doing in his development? How many reps is Dylan Gabriel getting? What is this looking like? We know Joe Flacco's the quarterback now, but Joe Flacco isn't going to make it the entire season in Cleveland. Either he's not going to win enough games, he's not going to be good enough, or he's unfortunately going to get hurt. Those are just the three realities. So then next up, it's clearly going to be Dylan Gabriel. Kenny Pickett is with the Raiders now as he got traded before the start of the season. But then what happens when Dylan Gabriel doesn't play well? Will they go to Shedeur? Or are they going to go to Bailey Zappi? And it is a fair question by Tony Rizzo. Why is he even on the team? Why is he even here? And that was a huge storyline going into the season. When is Shedeur going to play? I don't know if we're going to see Shedeur this year. If he's not even running the scout team, and they have happy for Zappi, Bailey Zappi running the scout team, how are you working on making a fifth-round pick who could have been a first-round quarterback if he just handled the interview process better? How are you working on developing him and making him a better player? But there should be a point, and I kind of think Flacco's going to be the guy at least through week 6 if he doesn't get hurt. So if he doesn't get hurt, at least they're through week 6. But after that, if it is Dylan Gabriel in week 7 or week 8 or even at the latest week 10, is Dylan Gabriel going to be able to keep the job for the rest of the season? I don't think so. Now, Dylan Gabriel, as the preseason did progress, he showed he could hang, he showed he could be better, and he played better than Shedeur Sanders, and Shedeur Sanders got hurt, right? We saw Shedeur get hurt. But we're at a point now in when I will say I actually don't know if, before the season, Shedeur would have definitely got on the field, I thought. Now I have no clue if Shedeur is going to see the field. And Tony Rizzo, who's sitting there and saying he's not even running the scout team, it does make you wonder, is there a world where Bailey Zappi could actually get on the field this year before we see Shedeur Sanders? And also the other one in Monroe, I don't think this guy's going to ever play again in Cleveland. What happens when Deshaun Watson is healthy? Alrighty, I got a question for you guys tonight. We'll go around the room here. We'll get Stu and Samter involved. You have the Commanders playing the Packers tonight. Who is there more pressure on to win? Is there more pressure on the Commanders, or is there more pressure on the Green Bay Packers? I will start things off with you, Stu. Who is there more pressure on tonight when you identify and look at this matchup?
It's actually a really good question. I think it's the Packers only because, and I'm only saying it's because that division is so hard, and if they can get to 2-0, they'll be in a terrific spot, and obviously they'll have a lot of tough games, with the Vikings in that division, the Lions in that division, who they already beat. I know the Commanders also have the Eagles to worry about, but I don't know. I just feel like there's less stress on them. So I think the Packers are the one that I think have the more pressure on them.
Samter, who has more pressure on them tonight? Is it the Commanders or is it the Packers?
I think it's the Commanders. The expectations for the Packers was a little bit lower. Like maybe they make the playoffs, especially after Micah went up a little bit.
Well, with Micah, I think they're a Super Bowl contender now.
Yeah, but even after the Micah deal, we still kind of thought that the Lions were the best, maybe even the Vikings. people still thought they may have been the third best team in the division.
But after week 1, couldn't you argue the Packers?
Well, so that's the thing is
Yeah.
after week 1, because of that win, it almost like a little bit of a relief. Whereas the Commanders going into the season, they just came off of the NFC Championship game. They've got this second-year quarterback who looks like he could be a generational type of talent if he continues on this trajectory. The pressure is on them to like prove that they're not just a team that you're going to be talking about, in the divisional round or the wild card round. This is a team that you want to talk about as a Super Bowl contender, and this is a challenge right now. So I think the pressure is really on the Commanders.
So pressure is such an ambiguous word because there's many different ways that you could evaluate.
Yeah.
What do you consider pressure?
Yeah.
Pressure to win, pressure to lose your
Yeah.
job, pressure to get a new contract. I'm actually with you, Mike, and I think it's the Commanders for this.
Did you get hit in the head or something?
I could have last night. That's definitely a possibility. The reason why I'm going with the Commanders is this. The Packers, even though it's not exhale yet, even though you really haven't accomplished anything, in week 1, they bludgeoned the Lions. They dominated the Lions. You had the moment, Jordan Love, Micah Parsons, and company. And the Lions now, we're wondering, what are they going to be this year? The Vikings, J.J. McCarthy had a good fourth quarter. Let's see what they look like for an entirety of the season. The Bears, Ben Johnson got served a slice of humble pie, and Caleb Williams looked like Caleb Williams from last year. But when I look at the Packers, they've been the lowest you can rank them in power rankings right now is 3. I rank them at 3. I had the Bills 2, and I had the Eagles 1. Those are my top 3 teams in the NFL right now through 1 week of the season. I've heard other people say the Packers should be 2. I've heard people say the Packers should be 1. So the Packer expectation after 1 win, it is skyrocketed. Where we went from, love the move to get Micah Parsons, now they're in the Super Bowl contending conversation, where now people are really hyping them up in the NFC. So if they lose, maybe pump the brakes on the Packers. But the Commanders, to your point, they went to an NFC Championship game last year. And this year, I didn't pick them to make the playoffs. It's not because of their quarterback. I just thought they would regress a little bit, be, 9-8, 10-7, and just how deep the NFC is, they wouldn't make it. The Commanders could remind a lot of people tonight, I know they didn't beat Philly in the NFC Championship game, but we still got there. Packers weren't there last year. Lions weren't there last year. The Rams weren't there last year. The Bucs weren't there last year. We were. And we have a quarterback who's in his 2nd season. And this is a moment, isolated spot, Thursday night, Amazon Prime, where Jaden Daniels could say, not only are the Commanders a Super Bowl contender because everyone's loving the Packers this week, but also Jaden Daniels as a quarterback who's already viewed as a top 6, 7 quarterback in this league, maybe as high as 5. This could be a national night of even more praise, where it's been praise after praise after praise after praise out of the wazoo when it comes with Jaden Daniels. This is another moment where it's okay. It's really us chasing the Eagles. People are talking about the Lions. Lions were out in the divisional round last year after a bye. People were talking about the Packers. We just walked into their house and we showed them that we're the team, and they're going to the road to do this. So for that reason, because people have already praised the Green Bay Packers, and in a weird way, no one's knocking the Commanders, but it's almost like they're not, I don't know if respect's the right word, but they're not praising the Commanders enough. I do believe that if the Commanders win tonight, people will then be like, okay, this is a team that could win a Super Bowl this year. This is a team that could get to a Super Bowl this year. It doesn't mean that they do it, but it's more of a prove-it spot to me tonight with the Commanders, even though the Commanders last year accomplished more than the Green Bay Packers. All righty, that will do it for day number 1 from Las Vegas. Once again, big thanks to Netflix for having us out here for Canelo Crawford. We'll be in the building on Saturday night at Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders do play, and we'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. We will talk NFL, college football, set the scene here from Las Vegas as well. So we're looking forward to that coming up tomorrow for another live show from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific time. Also like to thank John Anik for stopping by today. Also like to thank Jim Gray for stopping by today. Michael Samter, the entire team here on site, Nico and Stu and Ack back in our New York City headquarters, our boss David Marinick and company for making this broadcast happen. Hunter and friends at the UFC, I guess we'll say. We'll be back tomorrow, everybody. I'm Zach Gelb. I'm out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.